Hi everyone! So if you're playing a build in Diablo 4 that relies on certain legendary powers, there are some tricks on how to get it. You might know how to use the Codex of Power already, so you complete a dungeon. Each dungeon has a certain fixed reward that gives you a certain legendary power that you can then always craft on all of your items as often as you want to, but they are always the minimum row. So generally you still seek out better drops, but at least you can get started with a lot of builds that way. The problem is that a lot of legendary powers that are very build defining cannot be found in the Codex of Power, so you have to actually find them as a drop. Now drops are pretty much entirely random in this game, so there's not really any kind of target farming implemented yet, I guess, and you have to rely on RNG. But there are ways to improve your odds, and that's mostly with gambling. So you have the Purveyor of Curiosities, and you can definitely use this to try to acquire a certain legendary power that you want with way higher chances. So when you do side events, either outdoors or in dungeons, you get these obols, and with those you can gamble. And the prices are relatively high, but it does add up if you consistently do those events whenever you see them. They usually take like half to 1 minute or so, and you can get something like 50-60 obols or so if you master the objective. The thing is, if you're not power farming those obols, you do gamble relatively rarely. But you can definitely try to do certain circles in certain zones. You can look at those map tools, for example, see where there are many events. For example, when you do hell tides, farming events is also something you generally want to do for the cinders. So that is like a good 2-in-1 package. I don't know the numbers exactly, but the chances to gain a legendary from gambling are actually really high. And certain slots can only have certain legendary aspects. So for example, weapons are always exclusively offensive powers. Likewise, pants are exclusively defensive powers. So if you're looking for either an offensive or defensive one, you can just gamble these slots here. And they are sometimes cheaper than other slots. So you see here, I can gamble a bow for 75, or I can gamble a sword for 50. So obviously I would go for a sword here, because swords are usually what rogues use. So you might just get a good roll on the way, but you can also get a good legendary power that you're looking for. On other classes, you can even gamble offhands. So for Sorks and Druids, the totems and the focuses, or also for the necromancers, the focuses, they can also only roll offensive, and I think they cost even less, like I think 40. So you can actually just gamble those if you need certain offensive powers. And most builds are usually designed around those offensive powers. Getting resource aspects is really tough because rings have both the offensive and the resource pool. And they're also more expensive, and they're the only slot where you can get resource. But yeah, if you need any kind of resource aspect, rings are the way to go. And if you're looking for any kind of utility power, you should go for boots, because boots can have only mobility and utility. And mobility aspects are usually very, very few, like every class has like, I don't know, 2 or 3 or something like that. And the rest is all utility powers on the boots. So it's relatively easy to get utility there. Of course, you can still use those obols to also try to just acquire an upgrade on your items. So at least late game, you not really worry too much about the legendary powers, because, you know, by like level 80, 90 or so, you usually have found everything that you want, at least with, you know, some kind of decent chance. And it's mostly about just like min-maxing your actual items. In that case, if you are just trying to get better gear, I would definitely recommend to focus mostly on the jewelry. So amulet and rings are by far the hardest items to roll in this game. But if you consistently stick to doing those side events whenever you see them, those obols will add up, and then you have decent chances of getting something. So you can just, you know, see here that you gamble like 8 items or something and get like 2 legendaries. And for example, here I could gamble some rings, and there's another 2. So you see the odds are definitely very, very high of getting something. And at least right now, the game doesn't really have such a large pool of legendaries in most slots besides offensive. In any case, this is a pretty good strategy to try to get what you want. Especially when you're starting out a fresh character, I would recommend, like on an old for example, mostly just like a level in the outdoor zones. If you are looking for something very, very specific, then this is a really good strategy, because you can just go from event to event to event, slowly level up. And then, you know, in the end game, once you're like level 50 plus or so, you might have found what you wanted, and you can just go blast dungeons. That's also it for this video here. I wish you good luck, and see you guys next time.